TikTok.
Yes. For those on TikTok who don't know us that well, once a month or at all, once a month we do a live show. Put in your questions. We ask you for questions. We answer them. Kilts, culture, all that good stuff.
Camera.
Rolling. I'm assuming.
Rolling. Max rolling. I see the
we're
little
doing
red
all
dot.
those.
Cool.
Okay.
We're
Live
those
on
people who
YouTube,
know
yes.
Piper Alley, so we're cool.
We'll go through like osmosis. We sucked some of the cool.
It's like the Weird Al's Tacky song. It's like people say, I name drop, but it doesn't bother me. That's what Kanye West keeps telling me. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Are you ready, Mr. Eric? We're live on everything, Mr.
As
Mac?
ready as I'll ever be. And the internet broke.
Seems like we are.
Okay.
Are ready or
That
are
was
on?
R with a question mark.
Are?
Was it the letter R with a question mark? Or the
Ar?
word R?
Yar.
I thought it was
According to
R.
my phone, we are live on the Facebooks.
Okay. And the YouTubes.
Okay.
All right. And we all have weird pirate faces. Arr.
Yarr.
Yar, me matey. Very good. Are you ready, man?
Yeah.
Shall we begin?
Yes.
We shall.
Let's do it.
Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I am Rocky. This is Eric.
Yo.
Today, special treat. Our good friend, David Kemp, viewer of the show and customer, got us a bottle of Alexander Murray & Company Ardlair 9-year. I've been very anxious to try this one. The other one he sent us was pretty damn good.
He seems to know his stuff. Now,
Yes.
This is 9 year, so I guess some people would say it's not a real old.
Well, it's correct. It's
But-
9-year.
but-
We'll judge
Yeah.
when we pop this baby.
If it's
open.
not good, I'm going to have words with Mr. Murray there. It's
Yes, and his co. So, anyway,
Yes, sir. Having sampled your
indeed.
victual, we all know. Yeah, actually, it's not a victual. That'd be food.
forgot to do the slide in.
Oh, you forgot your trick
Yeah,
today?
I know, yeah.
well.
I've failed us.
This table needs a little
Oh, this,
patching up there.
yeah. That's what happens in the studio.
We need an authentic, old, Scottish,
All right.
handcrafted oak,
Ooh, yes. Good.
thing.
And I will pour it into our highly coveted off sought after USA Kilts Glencairn glasses. Ooh. Okay, just checking out the color. Looks pretty nice. Pretty. All right, Mr. Mac.
What would I get etched on whiskey glasses if I was going to get custom etched whiskey glasses? What would I do?
Possibly just the word Slanja. So,
Nah.
hey Mac, while you're here and on camera, what tartan are you wearing today, buddy?
I have on the red hackle tartan.
It's adorable.
Oh, it's a red hackle day.
It is.
Okay.
It is. The hackle of the red.
It's like a red letter day, only better.
Indeed. Mr. Eric, what do you have
Okay.
on there?
Scott Red.
Muted.
Scott Red Muted.
Yes, very nice. That's lovely.
I very much like
Lovely.
this one.
And I am wearing, which you can't see behind our little table there, I am wearing the McEwen Modern Tartan. It's one of my family-ish tartans. So
Family-ish.
family-ish, yes,
And
through
apparently
adoption.
it's
So
Black Shirt Day as well.
It is.
yes, it always
Yes.
black shirt, don't show no blood. Black shirt's all right. All right.
I'm in mourning for my sobriety.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put this back in so we can show a nice, pretty bottle. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
See, this is what happens. You delay a show by a couple weeks and you get totally off your game.
Oh, it's
Just
hectic
forget
today.
everything.
All right.
Forget how everything's supposed to be. Why is it hectic?
I don't
Rocky,
know.
what do we got going on?
All kinds of stuff going on.
All kinds of stuff.
Indeed. We'll tell them about that after we're done the scotch.
If they're good.
If. All right,
All right, so
Mr. Mac,
tasting notes.
and smell it.
All right.
Now we didn't let it rest. We just opened the bottle, poured it right in.
Yep.
So we have to let it gas off a little bit. I'm going to swirl it around a touch, try to move it around. Color-wise, it's light.
It's very light.
Yep.
Very, very, very thin legs.
Well, yeah, little thin legs. You're right. I'll
That's
agree. Medium light. I don't think it's not.
Is that
I've
an
seen
assessment
lighter.
of sugar content or something when you talk about the legs? Is that what that's for? Or Or is it just like people like saying, "Hey, yes, it has legs. This one does."
Well, I think it's partly that. You know, just like, hey, look, I know a word and a thing to say about Scotch. Look at the legs. Now it's probably due to partially like the viscosity of it. If
Oh
I
yeah,
had
totally
to
is.
guess.
I'm just wondering if it's sugars that
Yeah.
cause the viscosity. Showing my ignorance, guys. Go ahead and correct me.
Yeah, we're all
Educate me.
ignorant. Yeah. Scent. It's like fruity-ish and a little like beech woody, or like something like a light wood. It smells like sawdust almost. Like when I say like light wood kind of. I don't know.
I'm just not getting much of anything. I don't really.
Yeah,
It's very,
there's
very
not
light.
a lot. It's
very
it's
light.
light.
Very like a tiny, tiny bit of oakiness. I think is what you're saying with the wood that you're picking up. I'm just not.
Yeah, it's weird. Mac, what am I smelling?
So, according to the sheet
of apple.
that was printed off by our research department,
Our professional
Crack
whiskey
research
printing.
team.
the highlighted section for me says sometimes big, brash, earthy, and smoky. Sometimes
Sometimes.
it's sometimes. So it's like, yeah, it might be, might not be. This
Depends
batch-
on the bottle. We
Wait,
change
wait.
things up.
You
have
way to
no
cover your
idea.
bases there, Murphy. Murray, sorry.
Sometimes florals and fruity. A real Jekyll and Hyde distillery. So they basically just
What?
put stuff in a barrel and see what happens.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
At least they're honest. I don't know, Slanjo.
Yeah. I get the earthy. I get the peat.
Definitely get the peak.
There's not much smoke. I don't really taste smoke, but you taste the earthy dirtiness kind of.
Iodine.
Yeah.
It's literally iodine, right?
Well, I don't know if it's literally iodine, but it's
it's fair.
similar-ish. A little dry. Mac was like stuck there for a minute. I thought his game controller ran out of batteries. He was like,
It's all like on the front. For me, it's all like all on the front
I
of
was
the
just thinking
tongue.
that it's all on the front of the tongue. I purposely just tried to move it around a little bit and got a nice flavor in the center of my tongue. But still just very woody, very, very dry. I wouldn't say it. It said sometimes it's floral.
Sometimes.
Do we get the Jekyll or do we get the Hyde? I think I got the Hyde.
trying something different since you said the front of the tongue thing. Put it in my mouth, and I'm like wiggling my tongue around with the whiskey all around my tongue. Trying to see if I can get it in different areas.
Visual I
Whiskey
did not need.
mouthwash.
Yeah.
The night after, when you have a hangover. I don't know if that's a good idea.
It has tones of vintage Listerine from the 1950s, you know.
Yeah, I think we should let it breathe. I think it's going to change in about 10 minutes.
When the full moon comes
All right,
out, what? You mean is it Jekyll and
No,
Hyde? Or
then
that-
it's-
there
There you go.
It's gonna change
Jekyll
color and
Hyde.
everything.
Yes, indeed.
It's purple.
I'm going to try a touch of water.
Like
see
a
if it-
minion. Like those minions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like real strong in any one direction. It's like it's strong but not strong. I don't know.
I feel like it wants to be a Lagavulin when it grows up. It's just not
Yeah, but
quite
it-
there, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it tastes. I'll say this. It doesn't taste cheap. But it's.
It's just
But
very.
I'm not sure what it's trying to do.
I think it's very peaty but very simple.
Yeah, just pour some dirt and some rubbing alcohol. There you go.
I'd want to like pair this with something sweet, like a mild cheese or a very sweet pipe tobacco. You know, it's just not.
I would see a mild pipe tobacco. Yes, I
When do
can
you
see
ever
that.
Smoke a pipe.
Well, I smoked a pipe a long time ago, but
Okay.
but like something like mild and light. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know what kind of food I would pair it with necessarily.
I'm trying to help it.
Ice cream? No.
Some of smoked banshees. Smoked coop.
No, that goes with everything.
Well, because that's very, very strong.
Well,
So-
it's making up for the smoke that's missing here.
That's fair.
Just think like I was thinking a mild
Yeah.
something.
like a mild cheddar, or
Cheddar
like
makes
that.
it better.
Wensleydale.
with the rye seed Triscuits, which nobody can freaking find anymore. Oh man, I love rye
I love
Triscuits.
rye crackers.
Yeah.
You know.
And true. All right,
Anyway,
it's
Kirk said chocolate.
a little uninteresting.
You'd pair it with, Kirk said you'd pair it with chocolate.
it does,
Yeah.
It's got that kind of earthiness of a dark chocolate. Let me say that. It's got that.
Okay, I can
Now
see
that,
dark chocolate
I mean,
with
this
this
is Mac.
instead of milk.
Mac and Kirk are leading the witness here, but sometimes it helps actually to give some. It's like a little bit of a tannic edge that reminds one of a dark coffee or dark cocoa.
Yeah, I'm getting a little
It's the tannins.
burn.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a burn.
Any more flavor notes, or did you just give us?
That's
that
all I
was it?
got.
Okay.
Rich, nutty,
You could call it
with
nutty.
bags
woody,
of the
something.
Highland character.
Did you say bags of Highland character?
A real pick-me-up dram.
Who the hell wrote this?
That's the,
Fire the intern, guys. Wow. I'm sorry, just speaking as a professional
I
writer,
know. I
it's
was
just
gonna
like
say Eric's a copywriter. So
oh,
yeah,
bags of Scotch.
bags, great big satchels of Highland. What?
It's like I'm trying to go for an innuendo, but I'm not even quite getting that right. And it's like,
Yeah.
bags of Scottish flavor. It's just like, oh man, no, I don't mind
Taste my
it.
Scottish bags. Know what I mean?
I say no more. No, I don't mind it, but
Yeah, it is very. It's to quote the great Ian. It's fine. It's fine.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. It's fine.
Apparently, everybody on TikTok thinks he sounds like Nicolas Cage. Did you catch that? Yeah.
Or Nick Offerman.
Or Nick Offerman.
Yeah, I could.
Nick Cageman.
Yeah, I could see the Nick Offerman a little bit more.
Well, we're reviewing whiskey, not Ian's.
Oh, yeah.
Not
Sorry.
Ian's
Anyway,
stage voice, but okay.
Ian's one of his.
Rocky,
famous
why don't you
lines.
give us your score?
No, this isn't how it goes. It goes Mac first,
Okay,
then you,
all
then
right.
me.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Come on. World is in chaos. He's going out of order. I cannot have it. All right, Mac.
I'm going right down the middle of the road. I'm going 5. I'm not sure which way it wants to go, so therefore I'm not sure which way I want to go.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Eric.
4.1.
Really?
If I were, let's put it this way: if this, as you would say, if I were at a party and somebody offered it to me, fine. Especially for winter, feels like warming because of the peatiness and everything. But I'd rather have a Lagavulin. It's just like it's like it can't make up its mind. Like almost like, and like they knew that going in, and that's why they came up with the freaking Jekyll and Hyde description. So yeah, I'm not super impressed. It's not bad. It's just not.
Yeah. I'll go 5.8.
Really.
I'm right there with Mac where it doesn't know what it wants to be. I wish you wouldn't have said that because I was going to say it. It doesn't know what it
You
wants
did the
to
same
be,
thing to me.
but it's very good for middle of the road. There's nothing strong and crazy out of whack. A little bit on the peat, but it's still not. It's still reasonable and tolerable.
It feels like it's one of the ones you would give somebody to get them started.
Yes. I don't know if
know
I
what I
like Isla Scotches or not. So let me try something like this that's got a little peatiness to it, not really almost
Right.
any smoke. And that way it'll kind of introduce them without overpowering them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could say the same thing for the Oban, frankly.
Yeah, but I like the Open better.
Yes, so much. Obviously.
Oddly.
So yeah, I'd say 5.8. It's still good.
Wow.
I would like
Okay.
it. It's above average, but not a ton because it's just average. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so
like
fine.
it's got the peatiness well done, but there's nothing to go with it.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's the thing. There's nothing else. There's no other interest to it. besides
Yes,
that.
yes. Here's my own thing. Flail all over the place.
Watch out.
It wants to be balanced, but there's nothing to balance it out. Like it's a good amount of peat.
Right.
Then what else? Stuff. Like, but it's nothing on the other side of the seesaw.
Right. Floral Jekylls and chocolate Hydes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have to add something to it
What do you
to
hide?
make it better, like the chocolate thing, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just doing it straight up, or with a wee drop of water.
Mr. Kemp, thank you ever so much again for your gifts.
Absolutely.
These have always been interesting.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
just-
everybody.
Yeah.
All that stuff back there.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all bottles someday.
No,
nuts.
please, don't send us more. Don't send us more scotches. We hate when it happens. Yes.
Don't be greedy.
Indeed. Me, never. All right.
All right.
And
Away with you.
whoop. No, move the leg.
Yeah, practice.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I know. I just don't care that much. All right. All right. There. Now, thank you very much, boys and girls. Please load in your questions. As always, we are your humble servants here to answer all of your kilt and culture-related questions. While you load them in and Mr. Mac starts gathering all the questions from the audience.
Just one side note before we jump into the first question. Good friend of the show, Jeffrey Withnell, is watching us from the hospital. So
Oh,
Jeff,
right.
I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah.
You know what happened?
he's post surgery. So
Oh,
Yeah. I
well,
think this was
speedy
a while
recovery
coming.
to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
We miss you. All right. Now, before we start the show, a couple things. One, we're starting a thing that we did a couple months so far, so we haven't forgotten yet. We are going to do what the answers were to the question of the day from last month, or question of the month from last month. So, top 3 answers in no particular order.
What was the question?
Question was, what are your travel plans this summer, and will you be in a kilt? So, 23 Firebird. My brother and I are riding the Sturgis, South Dakota this August, and I'll be wearing a kilt for the concerts at the Buffalo Chip. Given as a biker bar or biker rally, I'll be in a utility kilt. As a traditional kilt, I think will feel out of place, but that's just me.
I've seen
I think-
trad kilts with leather jackets and stuff all the time,
Yeah.
so I think that's fine. But
Yep. But utility kilt, fine.
Sounds fun.
It does.
Sounds like prime kilt lifting territory, though.
Very, very much so. Reverend Zemich. We're traveling back from Reading, PA. Hope you had fun in PA. And I was kilted. Every trip we've taken since I started wearing kilts, I don't even take pants anymore. I usually take a semi-trad and a wool kilt and wear a casual to travel in. That's awesome. Very
Nice.
good. Very good. Spreading the kilt love around the country. Last one, Mike Simpson. I'm so chuffed my question got read out loud and answered. For the hike up to Inpin, I have a law enforcement memorial casual that I bought last year. As the hike is a sponsored event to raise funds for the UK police charity Care of Police Survivors, which gives aid to families of fallen officers here, it makes perfect sense to take and wear that kilt for the Inpin. What question did we answer?
Oh yeah, he was.
Do you remember?
Yes, I do. He was the guy who he asked us about dealing with wearing a kilt for hiking on a number of different levels, like A, like practicality of it, and B,
Okay.
dealing with the fact that the person he was going with wasn't thrilled with the idea.
Yep,
And
I
C,
remember.
wondering what kind of reactions he might get from people he met.
Awesome.
So like basically the whole, just our thoughts on the whole process. Now, Inpin is apparently a very, very challenging climb. I've since learned. So be careful, please.
Don't fall.
But it's interesting. I had no idea he was doing it for a charity. He never mentioned that part
Yeah.
of it in the original question. So I think it's even more interesting that he's doing it, and it's even cooler he's doing the kilt because now he's got like,
Different layers.
yeah, they might get some attention that way, and that means he can spread the message and all that. So that's cool.
Yep, a good kilt ambassador, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations. Okay. Next, second special announcement. Can you believe? Mac, can you believe? Eric, Adam, can you believe? It's been, Adam's like, nope, can't believe it. It's almost been 5 years, since we started this. August
insane.
2017, no, 16. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
5 years. It's been. We did the math earlier. It's fine. 17. Yeah.
17. August 17.
August 2017
Yep.
was our first live show. Middle of August 2017. Please don't look at the footage. It's horrible.
Show is using the term very loosely.
So we are going to do a 5-year anniversary show August 19th.
Yep.
We're going to kind of open up and do something different. It's not going to be the normal show like we do it here, where we're answering questions about kilt-related stuff. We're going to open it up to questions about the company, questions about us, questions about the show, about the Facebook, about everything. We're just going to go a little crazy and do something different.
Is it AMA? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, an AMA, and Ask Me Anything
Ask
kind
Me
of
Anything.
thing. This is
Within reason.
even without reason. We just won't answer you.
It's true.
But if you want to, join us for that, mark your calendars. We'll do something on a post about it on the Facebooks and the Instagrams.
Trying to remind people.
Yeah. But middle of August, 5-year anniversary show. We're gonna have some cool little bits that we're gonna have in there as well. So
Some bobs.
bits and or bobs.
August 19th. Be there, be there, be there.
Friday.
Your ticket pays for the whole seat, but you only need the edge. So.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for enduring all that. Mr. Eric.
What
question
What?
are we going to lead off the show?
Oh, okay. The lead question is, are you going to be there on August 19th?
That's a great question.
Lead question. Okay. First question is from Joe Gauss. What's the deal with the quaich? I had a drink of whiskey offered to me in one at a Highland festival by a clan representative. I understand it's a welcoming/friendship tradition, but what's the story behind the quaich? What's the deal? What's the deal with the quaich?
It's basically it's a cup of welcome. So you pour in. Well, I'm not going to pour this. You pour Scotch into the quaich, and there's 2 handles, so you can hand it to the other person. It's a shared cup kind of thing. There's not a. What else is there to say about it?
So glad you asked.
Lovely.
The origins of where this came from are actually kind of mysterious. There is a tradition that it definitely was a Highland thing first. Okay, it didn't catch on in any of the lowlands until like the 18th century and early 19th century. Surprise, surprise. Like so many other things. There was a story that it started from Highlanders using shells, like scallop shells, to drink whiskey out of. But it's since been thought that only was a reference to a passage in the Ossian sagas, which are those fake Celtic Gallic
epics kind of thing.
Epic poems of which were actually kind of fake. So that was one story. There is a possibility that it was the idea came from bleeding bowls from England, which I find very odd. But there's still an entry in an encyclopedia somewhere, like Encyclopedia Britannica, circa 1914, tried to say, oh yes, well they got the idea from medieval bleeding bows used in England and Wales, and a bleeding bowl is basically what you'd catch blood in when you were, being a barber surgeon. Yeah, well, not killing somebody, but bloodletting for healing. Yeah, that seems stupid to me. There is evidence that other cultures on the continent did have bowls like this, and there is some that come from the Baltic, which are made the same way with the handles and with the original construction, which is kind of like staves of wood, like a barrel, which is how you make a traditional quaich. That's how like the old archaeological specimens are like that. The silver stuff came later. So I think it was brought into the Highlands by Nordic settlers in the area. I think it was probably a drinking vessel that came over with the people coming on the boats.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I think so. And I personally, and I don't have a basis for this, but it's...
Now, how sure are you of this? Is this...
I know those drinking vessels exist.
Okay.
There are specimens from the Middle Ages of double-handled, wood-stave constructed drinking vessels from the Baltic.
Okay.
Right. And then I know that there's... I know it's from the Highlands. I think the medieval... It was a bowl that was used elsewhere and just came north, like other things, like from England.
Right.
The shell thing is almost certainly a myth, because there's no evidence of that prior to the Ossian poems in the 18th century, and it's just it's a gut feeling.
Okay.
That last part is purely speculation on my part.
That's where I'm trying to get to, is what is fact and what is speculation. Okay.
Yeah, that's my and I know that from my experience with Scandinavian traditions and everything, then the whole idea of passing a horn around as a token of shared toasting was a thing, and I feel like the bowl was in place of a drinking horn in some capacity.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just necessarily somebody coming to your house, but you pass it from person to person to person, going around in a circle, and the handles just make it easier for doing that. You know,
Okay.
so don't know. It's definitely related to things like porragers. There's also a Sami bowl, which only has one handle, but it's the same kind of a deal. You know who the Sami are?
Sure. Let's pretend I do.
Sami are native peoples in like Norway and Finland and
Okay.
stuff. So, Laplanders.
Okay.
So I think it's one of those small things that came over and nobody knows exactly when, but the tradition definitely developed and really caught fire in the 18th and 19th century.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became a poetic, romantic expression then.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was probably still had some traditions attached to it, but was a little bit more practical, less ostentatious.
Yeah. Now it's more the symbolism that is in it. than
Yeah,
anything.
like I think people would probably use one to welcome to their home on a regular basis back in the old days, but slowly but surely it just became much more ritualized, and then it became paying the piper at the wedding, and then doing the thing with the bride and the groom at the wedding, and people don't use them very often except at weddings anymore. So the fact that his clan chief or clan representative offered him a drink on one is awesome. It'd be great if more people were doing more of it.
Agreed. Maybe not during COVID, but
No, probably not.
indeed.
You have disposable quakes. You just have like a liner. You just drink out of it and then just toss the liner and refill it.
Yeah, but you have to get all of it out. Well,
I don't know.
okay.
But anyway, yeah, it's not. It's an old tradition, but nobody knows exactly how old. That's what it comes down to.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Hope that helped. Mr. Mack.
All right. So our first question comes from the YouTubes. We have Devil Dog 2008. Any advice for measuring for your kilt with a food sensitivity? Sometimes the bloat can be pretty extreme, more than 3 inches difference in his waist at times.
Interesting.
Food sensitivity, meaning he moves in and out with what he's eating, kind of
It
thing.
expands and contracts.
Yeah. Sure. Here's what I would do. If you have some kind of condition where if you eat, it all stays right here, and then if you haven't eaten for a while, it goes in. I would do this. I would measure your waist and your hips multiple times over multiple days. So I'd say measure yourself, before breakfast, and then an hour after breakfast, before lunch, 2 hours after lunch, before dinner, 2 hours after dinner, and do that for a couple days in a row. It's a bit of a pain, but what I'm trying to do is get your average. So if you're measuring multiple times, and sometimes you're as small as 36, and other times you're as big as 39, then I would probably say, okay, do maybe a 37 and a half. Split the difference and order right down the middle. That way, it's still the straps on a kilt generally span about 2.5 or 3 inches. So, and most kilt makers will make it to the middle hole, or try to make it to the middle hole in the strap. So if you're shooting for the extreme small and the extreme large, and you want to go right in the middle of that, it'll fit a little bit better. Now, let's say you're wearing the kilt out for the day, and you say, okay, well, you get up in the morning, and there's nothing in your system, and you strap on your kilt, and you're all the way on the tightest one, and then after breakfast and after lunch, you've had a heavy meal and start to blow it out a little bit, and it feels too snug, then you can just let it out a notch or two in the straps, and that should help you through the day. That would be my thoughts on it.
It's kind of what I was going to say. I would probably err on the side of the larger measurement. Not that I would wish that you would suffer a food allergen attack, but if you can have a sense of your measurement when you're at the worst point of that condition, go with that, because you can always tighten it up, but you don't want it to be so tight that you can't wear it comfortably.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a matter of like suddenness, or like you're out and about and you can't predict when it's going to happen or something like that, like my wife has this issue like with restaurants and stuff. A lot of time she can get schnookered depending on what she orders at a restaurant. Then again, I think having it larger so you can tighten it down is good, or let it out. The average would be good. I'm tempted to say if it's extreme, like really extreme, then maybe consider pairing the kilt with a set of braces so you can wear it loose. If it's a formal occasion, let's say, and you're going to be at this huge dinner and you don't know what's going to happen, maybe have something so you can have it loose. It's not putting pressure on you.
Yep.
Making you uncomfortable. I mean, you don't want to be out for the day in a kilt and all of a sudden feel like you have to take the kilt off because you're dying.
Yeah.
So.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
Yeah.
All right, Mr.
Stay
Eric.
healthy. My turn already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. Charles Marks commented that he was recently appointed the officially unofficial Toastmaster for the Caledonian Society of Arizona. I don't know that one. I'm curious about that. Aside from the "as good as you are" toast, what are your favorite Scottish toasts suitable for gatherings? I think we could expand it to Gaelic toasts. Because sometimes you remember.
I know a few toasts. I don't toast often outside of like Slanjava. And I know my insulting style ones that I absolutely love. The only and I'm horrible at memorizing, so all the toasts I know have to be short. The one that sticks in my mind, and I don't think it's Scottish, it's probably Irish, is "May you live as long as you want, and never want as long as you live." That would be my heartfelt toast that I like.
Cool. I guess I should have a glass for that then.
Yes.
So, yeah. Cheers. I'll drink to that. Yeah.
It didn't.
Okay.
Do you have a toast?
Ish. I mean, I have
May the
family.
road rise to meet your face. That's
Yeah,
your favorite
that's my joke one. Is like, "May the road rise to meet your face." My dad always used to say, "Next year in Jerusalem." And my official family toast has nothing to do with Scottish Gaelic culture. It's, garajki, which the family tradition says translates from the ancient word for that with which you open the door to the garage. But the Scottish one I like is, let's see if I can remember it. "May those who live true always be believed, and those who deceive us always be deceived." I like that one, especially these days. So yeah,
I'll toast that.
Yeah, bing! It's the old clinking show.
Mm-hmm. Mac, knowing that you're over there doing something else, I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you have any particular toasts that you like or don't like? You figured, you are a history nut. You may have something
that's a good
weird
point.
and different.
I just like mine with butter and jelly.
Your butter
You knew
always,
that was
always be
coming in.
jellied.
The dad joke is strong with this one.
I always like toasting the regiment. Even though I'm not in any regiments, but just like, and the Queen. I will toast the Queen, but
Yes.
don't at me.
Yeah, the one that I find amusing, and I won't say, well, yeah, they're in a particular group when they toast to specific things, and one of the toasts that they give is to the president. And knowing that members of the group are right or left leaning, if you disagree with the current president or you're not fond of the current president, people will reply with "to the office" as opposed to the president. So I thought it's a neat, humble way of saying, yes, I respect the office, not the man.
Yeah, I think, and there's similar things like toasting the crown as opposed to the person who's wearing the crown is an old world version of that. I had another one. Now I forgot about it. Dang it.
Sorry.
Oh, Jacobite toasts were a thing. I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of them specifically, or the words of them, because some of them got very, very poetic and involved. But it basically, is like, here, to the king over the water.
Yep.
Or to he who's gone and may yet return, or or shall not, he who had to leave and shall never return. And then there's the secret version of doing it where you have the toast and you toast the king, but you have it over a bowl of water, so that you're actually symbolically, silently saying the king over the water, meaning the old pretender, but nobody could say you're not toasting the king, meaning the Hanoverian king. So
Indeed.
very, very, very snaky. But those are always cool.
Yes.
And that's where you get almond glasses and all that cool stuff from.
Yep. Did we do a video on almond glasses?
We did a video on almond glasses, and I think secret Jacobite practices are fascinating. Some of the art they produced to keep the faith, so to speak, was amazing.
Yeah, a lot of the symbolism that they had, and even in the toasting, like you said, like at over the bowl of water.
The king over the water.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's neat and fun to see and know.
And Robbie Burns has a lot of his lines get used for toasts also, and this the Selkirk Grace is not really a toast, but my dad always used to say that, for Thanksgiving and other special occasions. That was his favorite for those occasions.
Nice.
So,
Indeed. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it's fun to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Mack, who do we got on the interwebs out there?
Well, this just in from TikTok.
From TikTok.
So we have Sarah Pettigrew saying hi from the Scottish Highlands.
Ah,
Why do you call it Scotch instead of whiskey?
We call it whiskey.
the
Personally, I call it whiskey, but
sometimes we say Scotch, sometimes we say whiskey. It's to us there's different things, and it's kind of just the way that Americans it comes out. When we're saying Scotch, we're specifically talking about whiskey from Scotland versus Irish whiskey versus like bourbon from Kentucky and things like that. So it's our way of saying that like this particular type of whiskey versus that particular type.
I think
there's nothing meant rude or weird about it, and it's just a what's the old phrase? A common people divided by language or something.
I think it's. I'll give a potentially controversial answer, but it's actually the reason some people call it Scotch is because the Scots for a time called it Scotch. This being the reason. Scotch is an archaic and no longer accepted or really enjoyed term for Scottish people. But at the time when whiskey was making its way out of the UK and out of Scotland, especially, they needed to be able to differentiate themselves from weaker, less desirable products, the competition. So it's kind of like the same reason why you can say a bubbling wine or a sparkling wine is a sparkling wine. It's only champagne if it comes from Champagne. The term Scotch was applied to Scottish whiskey for a long time for the same reason. It's like, no. This isn't any of that crap you're used to drinking. This is Scotch. This is special.
It's not that Canadian swill or that Irish crap.
Yeah, or that weird American stuff made with corn.
Ugh.
It was kind of like it was old, archaic, and we're talking like 200 years old or more. Marketing technique. It's like trying to say no, this is the real deal. So that's kind of where it started, as far as I know.
Like Tweed versus Harris Tweed and things like that too.
Yeah, and it's like I won't fault people for saying it. If they decide they're into it, then it's like it's actually better to call it whiskey. And then you get into the spelling thing, like the
EY or the Y.
EY is Irish and just Y is Scottish. So, but that's in a long-winded nutshell. That's what I understand about it.
Yes. No matter what, it's good.
Scotch eggs are not Scottish, by the way.
Good to know.
No, they're not. That comes up a lot. It's actually it comes from the term scotched, which means minced. And it was actually supposedly invented by this coach house restaurant in England back in the late 18th century. But I think they stole the idea from what peasants were doing and workers were doing all the time, and they just got the idea of selling it to passengers and therefore made it famous.
Yeah,
but
my
scotched eggs are actually an English invention.
Tangent. My mind was blown when I found out that shepherd's pie was not Irish; it was actually English and of origin. I still know.
Haggis was not originally Scottish either. It's a question of who came up with the idea and who did it best. So
yeah, same thing with tartan.
Yeah.
It's not, there's been examples of crisscross threads for hundreds and thousands of years, but the Scots perfected it.
Yeah.
So it's officially Scottish tartan.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. Not plaid, Scottish tartan.
Right.
All right. I hope that helps.
But plaid's similar. Like sometimes you have to gently correct people when they say, "Oh, I want to know what my family plaid is." And it's like, well, actually, the term you want is tartan. And I think the Scotch and whiskey thing is kind of a similar thing. So it's like they don't mean any harm, but it's good to educate them to nicer vocabulary.
And I'm raising my hand on this. Like I still say Scotch 2/3 of the time, probably, if not more, just because
I usually say whiskey.
Yeah.
But unless I'm quoting Anchorman, in which case it's like Scotchy, Scotch. But
yeah,
it's a horrible movie.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Don't at me.
Kidding me? Oh, come at me.
That's my line for the whole show is gonna be "Don't at me." Is it my turn now?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Hold on.
Let
me pour more scotch. Scotch whiskey. Or just whiskey.
You bastard.
How dare I?
You Philistine.
How dare I, sir?
You ignorant colonial.
I know. I'm going to spill it all over myself.
Damn Yankee.
So I don't mind it as much now. I hate that I already scored it.
Okay. It has gotten sweeter.
Yeah.
As typically happens.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's very exciting though.
I agree, but it's kind of mellowed out a little bit. I would increase. Now we don't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I would increase my score retroactively to, let's say, 6, 8, or 7. It's
Wow.
meaning I'm still not driving to go get it, but it's fine. I don't mind it. There you go.
He's okay.
It's fine.
He's okay. Before I launch into yet another rabbit hole tangent that has nothing to do with
Diatribe.
Gallic culture, Craig Moore. This is more of the practical side stuff. I want to wear a kilt all summer and at the beach. Stone Harbor crowd will probably be critical, I'm thinking. However, I think the Outer Banks families will just be curious. What's your recommended kilt fabric and kit for going on vacation and including beaches? We've been asked this one a couple of times lately because of summer vacation coming up.
Yeah. If you're going to wear it on the beach, my go-to would be a casual Velcro type kilt because it is lighter weight fabric. It is, you can get your swimming trunks on or off underneath it. You don't have to worry about it being too hot or wool being screwed up and that kind of thing. So I would say a PV casual kilt and a lighter shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm not a beach person, so I can't really comment on the difference between the Outer Banks or Stone Harbor.
I don't know what. Yeah.
I guess he's saying that some of them are snobby and some of them aren't. Whatever, it's their problem. You don't have to talk to them. They don't have to look at you. I would say, if you're on the beach and it's totally casual just for vacation, then yeah, it's minimalistic. It's not being traditionalist. You're just having fun and being comfortable. But once you're away from the beach, I would try to look nice. Especially if you're in an area where you want to be not the ugly tourist. You want to look like gentlemanly tourist. Then don't do the Hawaiian shirt and kilt thing.
Please don't. Please no.
Yeah.
No.
So.
But a polo, like a business casual kind of thing, polo with kilt, and nice
or
shoes.
we've said before. I think some of the sun guard, very very light linen, light cotton shirts can look nice with a kilt. It could be good for a tropical environment, or going to a restaurant in the evening where you're dining on the patio. And the ocean waves are crashing. The candlelight.
Indeed.
That'd be nice.
Lovely. Caw-caw. I smell the steak.
Mine?
Away from my fries.
But it comes down to, the beach and the rest of the vacation are separate. That's how I would think of it.
Yeah. Isn't caw like a crow?
Yeah, that's why I changed it.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
Okay.
Too much whiskey scotch.
I appreciated your seagull though. That was nice.
I've always been amused by the fact that whenever you hear a bald eagle,
it's actually a
red-tailed hawk.
Yep.
And we have those like crazy around here. We are in total red-tailed hawk country. So
yes,
it's another eagle.
No, indeed, it's not. All right, Mr. Mac, what do we got next?
All right. So this question from YouTube comes from Nathan, and he's getting married, so he's looking for some advice here, real quick.
Okay, real quick. Hurry, I gotta be fast.
So he's getting married it's next March, so he's got a little time.
Okay.
It's not that fast.
And to his beautiful fiance, who isn't into kilts.
Uh-oh.
So for the ceremony, he'll be wearing slacks, but during his reception, his kilt. Is this a good idea as a compromise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd say so.
The weddings are about the union of the two and making sure both of you are happy with the day. It's not. I've hated the insinuation that it's her day. You do what she wants, kind of thing. It's you're starting a life together. It should be both of your day. I think I'm quoting Monty, one of our mods in our Facebook group, who said that marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100-100. It should be you trying to make the other person happy and them trying to make you happy. It should be both. That is the secret to a happy marriage. And I love that quote from him. So, yes, finding a compromise, especially on that day, is a good thing to do. The majority of the photos are going to be at the altar and right after that, and as you're walking out of the church and things. So having that, if she has a particular thing in her mind of this is how I envision that day, then I appreciate that, and that's fine. And her being willing to compromise and say, you know what, but I know it means something to you, and I think that we should be able to like enter the reception. A, you're gonna get a big standing round of ovation. Oh, A, because you're married, but B, because
I hope so.
also because you're wearing the kilt, and especially if you get like her a sash or something to bring her into it a little bit after like the vast majority of the pictures are done, just to show like, hey, this is a fun new thing. It's going to like up the ante of the reception itself and kind of set the tone for now it's the fun time.
Yeah.
So I like the idea as a compromise. I still like kilts for formal. I wore mine for the wedding itself.
Of course.
But as a compromise, it's not a bad compromise.
Yeah, I think sounds pretty good. I mean, part of the thing to remember that we always mention in these situations is that it may be her personal preference. It may also be that she's dealing with the preferences of those in her family. And, you want them to be comfortable and not feel awkward during the ceremony also. I mean, it's about you guys, not them. But you want to be a good host. So there's something to that. And it's about building harmony for that moment. I think that, indeed, you'll definitely get more of a reaction and more of a fun reaction from people during the reception. The kilt, people will definitely appreciate the kilt. And there'll be a lot of pictures. The other thought would be, I mean, if you are feeling left out somehow, are there other Celtic-y kind of things you're adding to the ceremony that you can do even if you're not wearing the kilt? There's people who do, like the sash thing, regardless of whether there's a kilt or not. There's other traditions you can incorporate that would give you a nice old world, Scottish, Irish, what have you, flair and meaning without actually wearing that particular garment. So hopefully there's some elements that would make it colorful and more meaningful for you in the moment. More aesthetically pleasing, because obviously it's going to be meaningful. It's a marriage.
Yeah.
But
no, I think just by the fact that you're both willing to compromise right out of the gates is a very good sign. So, to your
absolutely.
marriage.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Lang may your lumreek.
Exactly.
Oh, that's my other favorite toast, but that's only for, yeah. Lang may your lumreek.
Exactly. Cheers. Slanjava. All right, Mr. Eric.
I think we should have a rule on the show where we only drink when people make us toast something and they have to tell us what we're toasting.
No, I want to drink more than that.
I think you're underestimating their capacity to come up with stupid stuff for us to drink to.
Mac will be like, here's another drinking one.
Yeah.
Every time Mac has a question from the audience, we drink.
Yet another. Okay. All right. So this is an interesting one, and I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory as we go to make sure that we're clear on this. But the basic question is this. Friend and viewer Chris McFate said, "Gentlemen, I've watched your previous videos about the owning and wearing of different kilts from different clans. We've talked about that many times, that it's okay to have multiple lines of heritage. However, my question is this. Should I feel uncomfortable wanting to own and wear the tartan of a rival clan?" So his story basically is that his main lineage is that he's a MacPherson, but he recently found out that way back on his great-great-grandmother's side, they were actually MacGregors, and then changed their name to Gregory in the 17th century because the name MacGregor was prescripted against. You could be put to death if you didn't renounce the name. So they did it for very serious reasons at the time.
Hence the MacGregor despite them.
Exactly.
Motto, yeah.
Exactly. And them being the outlaws. So he loves that part of his heritage. He loves the MacGregor tartans. He'd like to wear one, but he's worried that people are gonna be upset or weird about it if he's wearing literally a rival clan. Not just that the MacGregors are outlaws, but apparently the MacPhersons and the MacGregors were like blood enemies.
McLarens or MacPhersons?
McLaren. Sorry, McLaren.
Okay.
We'll just dub that in when I say MacPherson. I'll be like McLaren. He's a McLaren, and the McLarens and the MacGregors apparently were blood enemies for a long time. So he's afraid of what reaction he'll get if he wears the tartan of the enemy, even though he's related to both.
I would say this. The Americans, it it was quite a long time ago. The people that tend to get fussed about these things are generally not the Scots, unless they're like historians or they were direct descendants of something, or it's like they're directly linked to it. It is several hundred years ago. It's not like they're physically. It wasn't last weekend that their buddy got shivved by a McGregor and he's a McLaren. So it's a long time ago. B, Scots really aren't too fussed about it. They're talking about old traditions and old timey stuff versus what they're doing today. Americans, who are obsessed with the history about the things and trying to make sure that they're not doing something incorrect, are the ones, or that they're doing things properly, are the ones who tend to get more animated about these things. So both of these things are your heritage, McGregor and McLaren. So I wouldn't worry about it. We've said before, I wouldn't mix the tartans, but that's anything, whether they're blood enemies or not.
Right.
I wouldn't wear a Stuart tie and a Campbell kilt, whether they're enemies or not. It looks weird, because you're not honoring really either. You're kind of dishonoring both by wearing more than one. Is my 2 cents on the matter.
Right.
But it's not that big of a deal, now. As long as you're, a respectful, student of the culture, and you're wearing it respectfully, and you're honoring your own personal heritage, and you're not trying to pass something off that you're not. It's do what you want to do within that. That being said, I'd wear one or the other at any given time. I wouldn't wear them both at the same time.
No.
Most Scots that I know pick I have my mom's last name and my dad's last name. This is the one I like better. This is the one I'm going to wear.
Right.
Period. So, and they just wear, that's their tartan. They don't generally have more than one kilt.
Right.
Your thoughts?
I think you said this before, and I've kind of said before too, that, what do you think are really the odds of you walking down the street or walking into a Highland Games event and wearing a McGregor tartan, one of them, and somebody coming up to you and realizing you're a McLaren and saying, "What have you done?" and pulling out their broadsword and hacking at you. Or getting into a fist fight. Is there somebody he mentioned he's active with the McLaren Clan Society of North America. It's like, is there somebody in society who you mention this to and they're like, blah, 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 don't do that? Yeah, it's like, they need to get over themselves. I think most people would consider it to be silly, and quite conversely, they consider it to be a fascinating point of conversation. It's basically, tribalism and clan rivalries are universal across the human experience. And if you're an enlightened person, you have to accept the fact that we've moved on from that. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that it happened and understanding and appreciating the history. And I think, it's like, do Campbell's and McDonald's actually have fistfights in the streets because of Glencoe? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's and that's a whole complicated story anyway.
It is, but understanding the history, understanding where it fits in to history, understanding the surrounding context of everything, and then kind of leaving it at a certain point and recognizing that people have moved on and moved forward.
Yeah.
Here's my parallel. Last week in West Virginia, were the Hatfields and the McCoys still feuding? Mm-hmm. No, they've moved on. It's okay. Let it go. Are there still people, Hatfields, McCoys, Campbell's, McDonald's, whatever, who still hold a grudge? The Scots are never known to hold a grudge. Are there still some people who hold a grudge or still talk about it? Yes, there are still people who talk about it, and that's how you bring history forward, and that's how you keep history in the zeitgeist. And it's important to continue talking about things, but most people, kind of as you said, have just kind of like, it used to be a thing, and it's kind of fun to just joke about now, but it's no longer really a thing. So don't worry your pretty little head about it. It's okay. You are both. You are a McLaren and you are a McGregor. You can wear both and wear them proudly. I wouldn't do them simultaneously, but you're fine to do it.
That's just proper, clan clan etiquette.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Or
It's like
tartan etiquette.
the closest I've ever come is exactly that. It's like I have some Campbell in my background on my grandmother's side, and I've once or twice had a McDonald come into the store and we joke about it, like, oh, you bastard, but it's just we're just kidding around.
Yeah.
There are much more important things to be concerned with in this day and age.
With wars, with famine, with food shortages, with disease, with all of it, are we really still concerned that a couple hundred years ago, some McGregors and some McLarens didn't get on? If you're really, if that is the biggest thing that you are concerned about, your eyes aren't open. So, honestly, don't worry about it. Move forward.
Yeah. He's already taken the first step because he knows the history.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the bottom line is, we always say be a sincere student. So your clan's history. I'm assuming he's learned quite a bit about the McGregors and then the Gregorys. So you're doing fine.
Yeah. And
keep enjoying that. Keep enjoying the history.
And could someone potentially take offense, like you said? Yes, 0.0001% of the population who happens to know something might say something because they have a bee in their bonnet.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not going to change their mind no matter what. So don't try. Just smile, nod, and move along.
Right.
Indeed.
Wash day.
Yes. Cheers. Good luck. Mr. Mac.
See, there you go, cheering. You give another toast there.
Mr. Mac.
Cheers.
Cheers. Grachki.
So now I'm just going to end every question with a cheers. Exactly.
So now I'm
canon.
picturing the McLarens and McGregors as the Hatfields and McCoys now. In my
Well, they
head.
were Scottish.
Straw hats. And, yeah.
The Hatfields and McCoys were Scottish.
But the Hatfields?
I thought
I know
they
the
were.
McCoys were, but
Yeah.
I thought they were.
might
Yeah,
have been.
they were
Yeah.
Scott. I think they were Scotch or Scots-Irish.
I don't know, but they make some pretty awesome hot dogs now, so.
we'll forgive them. It's fine.
Yes. Well, I guess
Yep, about that time.
good time.
Hey, pa.
So,
Is that better?
Hold on.
Our ambassador today is Mr. Wade Smith. Wade lives with his wife, 4 chihuahuas, and 2 cats in the great province of Nova Scotia. He's the lead public safety officer for a community college campus up there. Wade's got a pretty cool heritage story. His ancestors were members of Clan Chattan. In fact, he is a descendant of the great Henry Wynd. Also known as Gal Crom or Crooked Smith in English, Wynd was a great swordsman who fought for Clan Chattan against the Camerons in the infamous Battle of Kelty. Study your clan history, folks. That's where you get these really cool stories from. Now, Wade's direct ancestors immigrated from Dundee to Glasgow in 1852. They then resettled across the Atlantic in Chester, Nova Scotia, where one of them started a school. They've basically been there ever since. Wade is a nerd for Gaelic history and Gaelic language. Now, his other passion, as you may have guessed, is Highland dress. Now, he'd only ever worn a kilt for pipe and drum parades in high school, but then in 2019, he wore one for his wedding, and he hasn't looked back. I, for one, am grateful for his addiction, because, as you can see, Wade is a master of traditional style. In a word, gentlemanly. The thing that helped Wade the most in his quest for style was kilt enthusiasts online. He also pored over historical references, art, and photos. He says, "I find that pictures speak volumes, especially in terms of dress." I couldn't agree more. I asked Wade what heritage means to him today, and he said, "It's more important now than ever. The Gaelic culture is shrinking, and it's folks in the online groups who are going to be instrumental in preserving it." Wade's advice for newbies out there getting started: take it slow. Don't fall for those special deals when you're shopping, and essentially do what he did. Stay involved with the online groups where you can see a large variety of styles and meet folks with experience. That's basically the best way to avoid being led down the garden path into something you're not going to be happy with. And we're back.
So, that was our friend, Mr. Wade Smith.
Yes.
A traditional kilter of the highest degree. Very, very interesting fellow and a very nice guy.
Very sharp.
Indeed.
Very, very sharp.
Yeah, very good dresser. I like him.
Yep. Cool. Here's to you, Wade.
Indeed.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Slanchava. Trying to do.
A lot more toasting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's
Mr. Mac.
Mac's turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this one came in through Facebook, and this was from Scott, and he's been pondering this from the other day. He's wondering, what is the history of the kilt pin?
Ah.
The history of the kilt pin.
Ah. Yes. The kilt pin.
Yes.
The kilt pin.
Indeed. Now,
does it mean any kilt pin or the original kilt pin, which has been lost to history?
Yes, the skirt pin.
So they didn't put a rubber band on the back.
Yeah. Now I got to explain that. For those who don't know, if you have a kilt pin, when you stab it through your kilt, take a little chunk of rubber band or an eraser off a pencil or something, and stab that pin through the eraser and then stick it out through the front of the kilt. And if your kilt pin comes undone, just like that, then it won't fall out of the kilt.
If the rotary clasp comes undone.
Yes.
Now, more and more pins now have butterfly clips instead of the pin, so it's not as much of a problem. But
so where did the kilt pin come from, Eric?
Well, the apocryphal story is that it was basically mandated by Queen Victoria because she was reviewing troops once at Balmoral, and the kilt flaps, not necessarily people exposing themselves, but they were just like going fluff while the troops were on parade, and she found it unseemly and unappealing, and therefore she said, put a pin on it, as opposed to put a ring on it. I think that's probably urban folklore. We do know that kilts did not necessarily have what we can, the hip straps and stuff originally. And if you look at old photographs, pictorial evidence from the 19th century, you will see that they were wearing pins higher up, like more on the thigh.
Yep.
And I believe that what was happening was they were using these pins to affix the apron higher up in order to keep it from, flopping fully open and just looking stupid. So it was a securing system at that time, and they would go through both layers. This is, my educated guess. I've never seen the inside of somebody wearing a 19th century kilt.
Possibly.
See the
they're
holes.
Wearing it up that high, yeah.
We'll have to go to Scotland, do some research on this.
Indeed.
But
to the Batmobile. Let's go.
To the Kiltmobile. Wait, we're going that? Oh, it's that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
The door. Dive out
it's obsolete. Doing that is obsolete, and now kilt pins are basically just a wind weight and a decoration. You do not put a kilt pin through both layers of the kilt. You're more likely to damage your kilt if you do that. Now there's a transition phase where you had hip ties, and Matt can tell us about some of the stuff they used. Militarily, they had the big the diaper pin blanket pins, which were used for the same thing of keeping a kilt closed, and sometimes also like keeping the over aprons that they wore closed. I think. No, they didn't really put pins through those, did they?
No.
Okay. So again, functional. And again, a blanket pin was not. I don't think it was issued for that purpose. It's just they had blanket pins and they started using them to help keep the kilts closed. I'm looking at Mac like he's not paying any attention.
I can't tell whether he's paying attention, reading answers, or
I'm doing a combination of multiple things.
He's just like, yeah, whatever.
But yes, you were saying about the
blanket pins.
Blanket pins being used. Yeah, I have a giant, big blanket pin that I use for my War I kilt.
But were they issued with those for the kilts, or were they? I didn't think so.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it was just like, you know what? I need this to be more closed than it is, so I'm going to use this pin.
You're wearing, most times they're wearing kilt covers, which are the cotton wraps that go over top of everything. But they're also being sent back in different times of the year. They're being sent back to be laundered. So they even though you're a Highland troop, you're not always wearing a kilt. Sometimes you're wearing your reissued trousers at different points. So your kilts are being sent back. They're being laundered. They're being repaired. They're coming back to the front. So all that stuff's going to be taken off. So you're going to have pins. You're going to manufacture your own stuff out there sitting around in the trench
art. Yeah.
So it's.
But they did pin them all the way through to help keep the aprons together. Is that correct?
Do you know?
Or were they using?
I wouldn't say for 100% certainty on that, but if the ones I've seen that have been pinned all the way through are ones that don't have straps or buckles.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more functional than wind weight, because a diaper pin kind of thing,
right.
like the 3-inch diaper pin is kind of what we're talking about. those they don't weigh anything to be able to hold
Yeah.
it down. So yeah, it would make
a
sense that it would
closure
be
mechanism.
functional. Yeah.
But again, you don't see that the Victorian's gentleman is often it's round. It's not like we traditionally think of as like a long
Sword shape.
Yeah, sword shape or whatever. So yeah, it went from being a minor convenience kind of a thing to like, oh, that looks really cool. Let's turn it into a thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
Agreed. And it kind of navigated south over time.
Correct.
Yep.
But there's no real kilt pins prior to the 19th century
Yep.
that I'm aware of. So.
Agreed. Mr. Eric.
To kilt pins.
Indeed.
Kilt pins. Yeah. Cilantro.
Let me refill.
All right.
I'll switch to coffee.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, here's another technical how-to one. Mark Essery.
What's up?
Mark Essery. This is a simple question, but might take a little explaining.
Okay.
Is there a trick to knowing where to position the kilt on your body initially so that it is in the right place overall once the buckles are secured? In other words, like side-to-side positioning. I feel like I always have to twist it around one way or the other to be able to secure the buckles, and then to get it squared up, I have to, twist things back, and then my shirt's all askew like this. Is there any tricks to doing that better, so you're not dealing with the whole
Twisting. Yeah.
yeah, and especially like I think the thing that's really annoying him the most is this. It's like your shirt winds up being like this.
Yep.
So, is there any way to avoid that?
Mark, just before the show, I was annoyed by my kilt and my sporran and my belt buckle not being straight on the gig line. So, no, there's really not. You end up twisting and ruching around and kind of moving around so that you look presentable and look, symmetrical right, left, and center. If you are wearing a polo shirt with no buttons down here, it's a lot easier than if you're wearing a dress shirt with buttons all the way straight down. Is there a way to connect the kilt so that you do it once, boom, done, and you don't have to think about it? In 19, 20 years of wearing kilts, I haven't found it. I would say this: if I'm wearing a dress shirt, what I would tend to do is when I put the kilt on, I would put it up a little bit higher, and I might leave the dress shirt kind of like poofed up top, and then I can like twist the dress shirt on, put the kilt on, and then hopefully get it as aligned as I can, and then twist the kilt a little bit to the right position, and then reach up underneath and pull the shirt down, or pull it this way or pull it that way, depending on which way the plackets on the buttons needs to be lined up. And then once I have it lined up, then drop the kilt down a little bit more into position. If I was really fussed about it, I would do that. Otherwise, I've kind of gotten, I won't say lazier, but over time, it's just a matter of you just deal with it. So wrap a kilt around and put it on that way, put it on the buckles on this side. You just look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, does it line up? No. Okay, I reach down, pull the stuff this way, shift it around a little bit. Boom, done.
Yeah, I'm afraid there really isn't a super magic secret trick.
No.
I basically just, depending on your body shape and how big a belly you got, this can be more of a nuisance than not for some people. But yeah, I'm always a little bit twisted at least, to get the buckles on and then spin it back. And then I will basically just reach up underneath the kilt and pull the shirt back down to align it, which I think is what most people realistically wind up doing.
It also partially depends on how flexible you are. If you can, if twisting your body all the way around to this side to adjust the buckle and then all the way around to this side doesn't bother you, great. If you're less flexible and you can only really get to here, then you're going to have to twist the kilt and pull it back that direction. One of the things we actually tell bigger customers in the store who don't have necessarily the flexibility to be able to get all the way around is basically start with your left side buckle here, attach it through, twist the kilt this way, attach your other buckles right here, and then twist it back, and then adjust the shirt and adjust everything else underneath.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Part of the game.
Unfortunately, you have to suffer for your art.
Yep.
a small degree.
Pretty much.
Indeed. Mr. Mack.
I'm laughing every and you're talking about the flexibility. I was like sweating in my office trying to buckle. I was like, come on, fatty, you can bend a little bit more.
Matt gets halfway up the stairs and has to take a break.
Ouch. Ow, you guys are mean.
I'm mean to myself.
Yeah. Like...
Dude, I get winded. We have stairs in the shop, and it's not like one flight. It's like a flight and a quarter. So it's like those extra 6 steps at the very top.
Yeah. And it's steep, too. It's like an Aztec pyramid. You know, I always joke about that. And it's just like, roll the body down the steps. Yeah. But that's what happens when you retrofit a building to put a freaking media studio in it. You know?
Yeah. Come to the crypt of Tutankhamun.
Kilts. Kilts.
Yes,
Kilts. The tomb of Kilts.
The tomb of Rhaegar Common.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mack.
So we got a question coming from the TikToks again.
Nice. Thank you.
Asking, are you guys going to this little festival called Celtic Classic this year?
That thing?
That old thing?
What?
Of course we are going to Celtic Classic.
Yeah, we'll be there. Funny you would mention that.
Just don't spoil it.
I'm going to spoil it.
Don't. Oh, I know. It's already spoiled now. Damn it. Cat's out of the bag. Celtic Classic is one of the larger, if not largest. The funny thing is about Celtic festivals or Irish festivals or Scottish, like they all want to be the largest of something.
Right.
So it's the largest Celtic Games festival or something. I don't know. It's big.
It's pretty big.
It's up in Bethlehem, PA. It's the last full weekend of September every single year.
Yep.
Last year we were supposed to, didn't get to because they kind of pulled it back. But this year,
Bum, bum, bum.
these guys right here, this guy and this guy
over there.
No, not Mac.
Oh, well, he's gonna be helping.
He's gonna be at the event. But we're gonna do a Kilts and Culture live from Celtic Classic. It's gonna be me and Eric on an actual stage at an actual time with an actual audience, asking actual questions because these are actual.
We're going to ask them questions.
Turn the tables.
So you in the purple shirt, what are you doing? No, but seriously, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
This is the first time we're going to be doing something with a live studio audience, so to speak. So it's going to go off the rails. We have no idea if it's going to be good or horrible. If you see a video, let's say mid-October, that is put out on YouTube, it means it was good. If you don't see any videos, then it never happened. What are you talking about? There was no...
Plausible deniability.
Exactly.
I was in Austria during the festival.
Now, but if you're in the Philadelphia, New York kind of region, corridor, whatever it is, please plan to go to Celtic Classic. We need people there to ask us questions live.
Yep.
We are not going to be broadcasting it live because we're not sure about the Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff at the event. But we're going to be answering questions live. We're going to have a meetup. We're going to be hanging out, drinking, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So please plan to be there. Yes, we're going to be there. Yes, USA Kilts will have a booth there. It's going to be a rock and roll party, kick-ass blast extravaganza.
Yeah, but we always have a booth there. That's one of the only festivals that we do. And we have a lot of friends there. So it's kind of home. But this will be the first time we're actually doing a live show. So if you do come, be aware you could wind up being recorded for posterity, whether posterity can handle it or not. But yeah, he's been nervous, like, what are we going to do if nobody shows up? And I've been telling him, no, we're going to have plenty of people. It could be a problem. There's going to be people. We will fill the tent, I promise. So don't make a liar out of me, please. Tell your friends, coming out for it.
And Rocky, you have 8x10s glossy that he can sign after for everybody.
No, I'm
that's
signing.
Pretentious and stupid.
I'm signing people's chests.
Okay.
Hopefully, there's not a lot of hair that the pen has to go through. But yeah.
Yeah, no.
Sweaty men.
But we do hope we'll be able to talk to people a little one-on-one also, in addition to doing the official show.
No, that's part of what we love. We love interacting with people in real life or in real camera life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the actual physical interaction at events in the store. That's what gets our juices going.
Yep.
So please come out. Please hang out with us. Please no. It'll be a good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be there.
Be there. Be there. Be there.
Or
something.
octagonal. I don't know.
Yeah. Indeed. All right.
Ready?
Sure. Why don't you go?
Okay. Go.
And go.
Now I got stage fright. Matthew Newman asked, very simple but complicated question. How do pipe bands or military regiments choose their tartans? Sometimes it's not really a choice, actually, but
Military regiments, I'm not
really much of a choice.
How they select them. Mac might be able to.
I think I know what the answer is. I'd be happy to hear what Mac says.
Nowadays, I don't know. I know in the olden times, basically whoever fronted money. There's a lot of it was all
Fair.
this guy, and he fronted the money for it. So,
yep, it's basically whoever raised the regiment. It was their choice. Sometimes it was their clan tartan. But
Private Army, like the Murray of Athol's, like coming to mind. I remember them walking through with the slightly different plaid color than kilt color.
But yeah, that's different. They're special. You mean the archers?
Private Army. No.
Or the Highlanders, the Murray of Athol Highlanders. Yeah, that's different. Yeah, the only standing private army in modern world or something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, military regiments. A lot of them go back a long time, and it goes back to 18th century, early 19th century. The regiment being raised usually by a person of some rank and note of the nobility or the aristocracy, and it was basically either their clan tartan or a tartan that they liked that became the unit's tartan, and it's part of the tradition of the regiment, so you don't really change it until or unless the regiment is amalgamated or disbanded. I just did a little bit of research on the 78th of Foot Highlanders, and so it's exactly that. We're probably gonna do a whole little SMV video on those, but you don't change. It's like the colors of the regiment, you know what I mean? So it's like it's storied. It's part of the tradition. It's part of the esprit de corps. So once it's set, you don't
part
want
of the history
to change it.
Yeah. Now for pipe bands, that's a different story. There are pipe bands can pick their tartan. Think of it this way. Put yourself in their position. It's a group of guys with a piping band or a drinking band with a piping problem kind of thing. A group of guys come together, or girls, and say, all right, we're going to start a band. What tartan are we going to do? So there are different ways to go at it. Some bands will say, well, I know like Kilnave. McConnell was the founder of the band, so he said, great. Or the band said, okay, we're going to adopt the McConnell tartan as our bagpipe band's tartan because that was the founder of the band. Mm-hmm. So that's how a lot of bands start. There are some bands that just kind of have a democratic process, like Brian Baru, who said, they broke off from a different band, and they said, okay, well, we're an Irish band. Let's look at one of the Irish county tartans, and they selected County Mayo because they like the colors of that particular tartan.
Right.
There's other bands that say, well, we want to have our own tartan, so they're going to design their own, so they have their own tartan officially registered and that kind of thing. So there are different ways for bands to come at it. It is generally speaking, it's either a democratic process where the band members vote on which tartan that they are going to do, or if they're going to design their own tartan, or it's done to honor a founding member or an idea or something like that.
Right.
Is how the tartan gets chosen for the band.
I think they're always voting in a more or less democratic fashion, but it's a question of what is their inspiration for their options. So you might have it in the running, like, okay, we could either go with, this tartan because it was Joe's tartan and he's the one who started the band, or we could do this tartan because it's the state tartan, like the band up in Alaska that uses Alaska state steel, or we could invent one that we feel we can put symbolism into the colors, like Philadelphia Police and Fire. Their tartan is, I think, probably there's
I designed it for them based on the Federal Memorial tartan.
Gotcha.
But they came to us and said, we want a tartan based on Federal Memorial, but we want to, tweak it a little bit to make it our own, and we did that for them.
Yeah.
There's also, there's a bunch of different ways to kind of come at it and make it their own, but especially nowadays, meaning 2022, 2023, 2019, more and more pipe bands are kind of thinking about it going, well, if we have like 15 or 16 new members and we have to buy essentially a bolt of cloth anyway, why would we just buy Royal Stewart when for the same amount of money we can have our own woven? So let's design our own tartan and do our own thing so that we're different from the other bands that do Royal Stewart that's already out there.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a neat tradition, and it's a neat and well, even beyond that, some bands will say, especially if they don't have much money or the individual members are buying their own kilts, no, you buy your own tartan, and it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of different tartans on all the pipers.
Right, and you get the rainbow effect.
Yep,
Yeah.
there's Collingdale that was police and fire who wore our law enforcement and our firefighters tartan together. So there's neat ways to go about it. There's neat symbolism within it. It's you're peeling back layers of the onion to kind of get at the center of it. But there's a lot of neat stuff, generally speaking, involved in how they select a tartan. There's not one way. There's multiple ways to do it, but there's generally symbolism behind it.
Yep. Very much.
Indeed.
Ta-da.
Mr. Mack.
All right. So this comes from YouTube, from Old River Couch.
Old River Couch?
Yes.
Now I'm picturing an old beat up couch by the banks of the river. Got it.
And Kermit the Frog is on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Why are there so many songs about tartans? Yeah.
Not easy to be a green tartan.
It's not that easy being Campbell. Okay.
He's asking, what should kilt strap tension be? I usually make the top two straps fairly snug and the bottom one fairly loose. I just guessed on how it should be. Is this correct, or does it not matter?
I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, there's different schools of thought
Yeah, yes, they're all
on kilt tension. There's a couple different ways to do it. One, when you're a kilt maker making a kilt, you want all three straps to be on the same hole. So ideally, if your left, your left side, waist strap and your right side waist strap are on, they should both be about on the middle hole, and then the hip strap should be on the middle hole as well. What I generally do for a little bit smoother effect as you stand is my under apron, I will pull a little bit more snug, and then the over apron, the front apron on top, I will leave probably either one hole or about the same hole as the under apron, just to kind of, so that the under apron is snug, kind of holds me in, and the other one just kind of lays more gently across the front of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I pretty much always the same hole for the waist for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's about the same hole.
I do like to have the third strap a little looser though, just for mobility and sitting down.
Yep, and some people think that the third strap is somewhat superfluous. You don't actually need it. You can leave that off.
Yeah.
We've done that on occasion. If people say, hey, leave the third strap off on the hip, I don't really want it, that's fine. We can do that.
Right.
But it does kind of, in some ways, balance out the left side of the apron where the fail is sewn down to, about the hip measurement on the left-hand side. So that kind of balances it out a little bit on the right. Although it's not 100% actually needed to hold the kilt in place. It just kind of keeps the apron centered, so to speak.
Right. No, the goal is to have it not fall off you. That's it.
That is, not fall off and look good.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Those two things.
Yeah.
2 goals.
Yeah.
And pleats in back. 2, Eric. 2. 2. All right. Mr. Mack, was that you? Or was that?
It was.
All right, so Eric. You're up, pal.
All right. Okay, another practical question. Don Burns says, I wear a 9-yard, 16-ounce wool kilt. After an all-day hot weather festival, what I'll do is spread it out, underside up, on a long table overnight to allow the sweat to evaporate from the fabric. Is this a good idea, or would it be better to immediately hang the kilt when I get home to keep the pleats straight and uniform? So is he going to encourage
Should you lay
his
it
plate
flat or hang it?
Yeah, is he going to lay it flat to let it dry out, or is he going to hang it so that his pleats are not softening, losing their crisp edge?
I would. There's advantages to both. If you hang a kilt, you have, air circulation in front and back. Now, that said, so if you're like, well, it's, air attacks it from both sides. Attacks. If you're laying it flat with the inside facing up, that is where the majority of your sweat is.
Yeah.
So it can gas off, and kind of the air will lift the moisture out of the kilt. I would say the actual bigger issue is if you hang the kilt, depending on how many clips you have going across the top of it, you have the unfortunate situation where the kilt, if you're hanging it by, like, let's say 2 clips, you can end up with pleat splay, or the pleats just kind of spread out in a weird way. And then, especially if your kilt is wet and you do that, it kind of gets in a weird shape, and then you're really should probably iron it to get it back in the proper position next time you put it on. It's stretching the wool in a weird way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mac, you can kind of, as a kilt maker yourself, you young man, you can kind of come in here if you have any thoughts on this as well.
I'm just trying to think of, like, after festivals, after we're out in the festival all day long and sweating out there.
It's moist.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the inside, definitely. I think the first thing to do is kind of just lay it out on on the bed, just to kind of at least air it out there. But then putting it on 2 hangers where you can kind of separate it a little bit.
Yeah, we're spoiled by having really good hangers.
Yes,
we have the 4-clip hangers. So, I would
you
say
can buy it today.
available at the usakilts.com store, folks. But no, if you have you have 2 kilt hangers, you put them side by side, and you can hang it. Kind of get the best of both worlds. Yeah. I don't like hanging it on one hanger when it's wet, because you're trapping that moisture on the inside. The layers are folded on the inside.
Agreed. Don't do that.
I've been known to lay a kilt out on a hotel air conditioner for that same thing. I was like,
I'll lay it on the back of the chair, like the wing chair.
Or the back of a chair.
Yep. Because that way it kind of it's, especially if it has those 2 little, like, the wings that, come in a little bit. That way you have a little bit of underneath air. And it kind of hangs down the side, but the pleats are kind of supported straight down.
Yeah.
Didn't you also use the trying to remember from festivals where we've all the rack?
Yep. One of those the collapsible clothing rack kind of things.
Yeah. Clothes
you can
racks
use
are good.
that, so you can put it across the top of that, and then air can go top and bottom on it as well.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's doing.
It's really, the question becomes the maintenance after the fact.
Correct.
If he wants to, it's when you have something wool and wet and it's kind of hanging at a weird angle, when it dries, it will be stiff or at that weird angle. So if you're going to re-iron it, sure, great, done. But if you don't want to re-iron it before the next time you wear it, like if you're going out for 3 days in a row at a festival and you're wearing the same kilt, then you want to lay it as flat as possible for it to gas off, versus hanging it where it's going to kind of splay out weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
If space allows, I think it's a fine technique, because you're just putting off the next time you have to iron the kilt.
Yep.
It's going to need ironing eventually. But yeah, exactly, because we're used to that situation where it's basically a 3-day trip or more. So.
And if you sweat enough, it'll eventually need to be washed. When it stands up by itself,
there's that.
You should probably dry clean or wet wash your kilt. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Don't let the kilt wear you. You wear the kilt. Remember that. Mr. Mac.
The more you know.
Which way to go?
All right. So this is an interesting one. This comes from Facebook, from Carl. What colors do you recommend for a colorblind person to use when designing a tartan?
Gray.
I suggest you have someone help you choose the colors. Colorblind or not, it really depends on the color palette that you're choosing. Do you want an ancient general color palette, or to stay safe with it, if you have an issue seeing the colors, then I would stay within the color palette, whether it's ancient colors, whether it's modern colors, whether it's weathered colors. It's already a tried and true color palette, so I would probably stick with that if you have that issue, kind of looming over you.
Yeah, I think I think you just made
Exactly.
Now I was gonna say
More scotch?
probably not. If there's a tartan you like the colors of, you like how the colors blend, then that could be your template, and just say, okay, this tartan calls for this, and this, so I'm going to take those and use those to color, to make my design. That way, I can be pretty sure that even if I'm not seeing them the same way other people see them, I know I have a pleasing combination. So basically, using exactly what you said, but saying use a current tartan as a template for the palette you're going to choose, not just the type of color palette, as in ancient, weathered, or muted, or whatever, but the specific 6 colors, and then build your design that way. It's always good to get a second pair of eyes on a tartan design, whether you're colorblind or not. So, have somebody who can look at with you and say, well, you might want to consider changing that up or whatever. And focus on whether you like the contrast more than anything else. It's if you're not seeing the difference between reds and blues or reds and greens, then maybe you don't use so many reds and greens, but you want to make sure you have a pleasing contrast so that you can enjoy it.
Yeah, there's actually a yes, 100%. B, ask someone you trust, like, hey, I really like the way this tartan looks. Is this a good looking tartan? Maybe ask a couple people who have independent, color vision that can see it. And one of the things that, exactly what you just said, we actually did. Dr. Tulloch is a customer and friend of ours, and he wanted me to design a tartan. And he said, I love the County Dairy tartan from House of Edgar.
Okay.
So I love the interplay of those particular colors.
Okay.
So I want me, to design a tartan for him, or for me, whatever. I forget where I am in the thing. But anyway, design a tartan using the County Dairy colors, period. So I just figured out and talked to the mill, said, okay, what specific shades of green, blue, orange, whatever, are you using in this particular tartan? And then we designed a tartan for him using only those colors, and made sure it's the exact same color palette. And we just had the same mill weave it, and he was very, very pleased with the finished product.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a very astute observation, and that worked for him as well. Mm-hmm. Mac, you had something else?
Yeah, it might be a good idea, especially for some newer people that are watching for the first time, if you can just quickly, I know we've done it in other videos, but ancient, modern, weathered, muted.
Sure. Right. What are the color palettes? Yep.
Sure. Generally, when you're talking about tartans, clan tartans specifically, not necessarily the modern universal ones that are going to, call on different colors or different shades of the same color and that kind of thing, but going back 100, 200 years, particularly clan tartans, like the one that I am wearing here. This is the McEwen Modern Tartan. I'm calling it modern because it's using navy blue, bottle green, scarlet red, and a bold yellow kind of color. If this were to be an ancient, McEwen Ancient, this navy blue would be like a light sky blue. This green would be a light grassy kind of green. The red would be more of an orange kind of color, and the yellow would be a little bit paler. In a modern, in a muted tartan, like Eric has on here, the red is not scarlet red. It's more of a blood red. The green is more of an olive green. A blue would be like a stormy sky blue. Weathered tartans would have the blue become sort of a steel gray kind of color. The greens would become a brown. The red would be like a salmony kind of red. And the yellow would be a very pale, goldish kind of yellow. So it's a color palette based on the tartan. Now, it's the same tartan because the thread count is the same. The definition, a thread count is defined, or a tartan is defined by its thread count. So the thread count is the exact same. It's just the color variations of green or of blue or of red are a little bit different depending on the color palette.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Does that help you out there, Mr. Mac?
Yes.
Since you needed some help figuring out what a modern ancient
So
color
making
tartan is.
kilts
So there
for
was
how
a
long
question
and
on
still
there,
forget?
so that's why I brought it up.
I'm kind of disappointed that you've been here for, like 12, 14 years now, Mac, and I have to explain this to you over and over and over.
Well, at least the mills sometimes label the material when it comes in.
That's the only way you've gotten by, isn't it?
Exactly.
Been cheating us this whole time. Wow. Wow. You sure you want him to be on the 5-year anniversary special?
Now, I'll put Ian back there with him to help him out.
Okay. August 19th, 5-year anniversary special, right here, this channel.
Same kilt time,
Same
same
kilt
kilt
station.
channel. Yeah,
Yep.
indeed. Mr. Eric, is that you or him?
That was him.
Okay, good. You next. Go, move down.
Okay. Eric Stubbs is trying to stump us. He said, I thought that I had read that one of the reasons for great kilts coming on the scene was to avoid a garment tax, since there was no sewing involved with making a great kilt. But I couldn't find anything online to confirm this. Is there anything true about this story?
No.
I've never heard that.
No.
I've never heard that at all.
The great kilts essentially preceded tailored kilts, so I wouldn't think that would be true. The only thing that is similar-esque, what that I know is true, and I'll kind of go off on some anti-government rants here for a second, so I apologize in advance.
Right.
When kilts like 40 years ago-ish were being exported from Scotland and imported by Americans, or sent to America, one of the customs duties, one of the things you had to declare was, does your garment have any decorative edges, any frilly bits, any fringe? And those garments were taxed at a higher rate by customs. So one thing that kilt makers did in the UK was the fringe on the edge of the front apron. They would actually leave that fringe, or they wouldn't fringe it. They would just cut the fabric right there, and you, as the recipient, would actually pull those threads out. So that would avoid the necessity for the garment to be taxed at the frilly, embellished rate.
Right.
Another weird thing like that, again, here I am on my anti-government soapbox. One of the things that drives me nuts is upholstery fabric is taxed at a lower rate than garment fabric. So if I were to buy fabric from one of the mills in the UK and say like, hey, this is for upholstery, it's I forget the actual rates. I used to know them. It's like 7.5% versus 12.5%. So it's the same freaking cloth, but it's taxed at different rates depending on what it is going to, the intended purpose of the cloth. So maybe he's conflating something,
I don't know,
one of those with
kinda,
that, but I've never heard great kilts
I've
being
never heard that before. It's kind of like
untaxed.
I'm trying to imagine some tax collector going up into the Highlands at all, but going up there is like, you're wearing a shirt. Give me money. It's like, no, it feels like one of those. It feels like an urban legend designed to boost the underdog, which we have a lot of, and they are there for a reason. It's fine. Some of them are fun, but it feels like somebody invented because there's like another way of saying those damn English. It's like, it's also because I think sometimes it's hard for we in our modern minds to imagine the circumstances that would lead somebody to do something that seems low tech. It's like we don't respond to all the things that would require you to adapt back in the day. It's hard to transpose your brain back to those times. It's like, why? Well, they had pants up until then. Why did they start wearing this garment? There must have been a reason they couldn't wear pants. Well, no, there was a reason they decided pants were not the best option for certain circumstances. It's not. There's not necessarily an overriding dramatic reason. That's usually very simple, pragmatic reasons.
Kiss.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, no, haven't heard of that. Don't think there's anything to it. It's not a thing. Don't make it a thing.
Right.
It's not a thing.
Yep.
Indeed. Mr. Mac.
All right.
Who do we got next on the interwebs?
All right.
So this comes from YouTube, from Steven. He says, how do I keep my buckle from scratching the top of my sporran? I got a stag buckle and an artisanal sporran and wore them for the first time last weekend and had scratches on the top of the sporran afterward.
Now, is this when he says artisanal, does he mean, is this a flap closure or does it have a cantle?
It's one of ours. It's the artisanal brown and black sporran.
Okay, but I want it.
A flap, day sporran.
It is a flap.
Yep.
Okay, and what was the buckle, did he say?
Stag.
Stag.
Stag sporran.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's no good way to... It depends on how you wear your sporran and how you wear your buckle and your belt. If you wear your sporran a little bit lower when you sit down, it's really only when you're sitting. When you sit down, like you look at me right now, my sporran and my belt are in pretty close proximity. When I'm standing up, they're 3 or 4 fingers breadth apart. And specifically when I'm doing the show, I loosen my sporran strap a little bit just so it can sit down a little bit further than I would actually do if I was out and about in the world. So it's one of those things where when you are, when you're sitting down, this is coming up and this is kind of sitting down, so they're running into each other. So there's not a whole lot you can do to stop that. Would you disagree? Agree?
Yeah, I agree. There's the whole option of just, if you're going to be sitting for a long time, take the sporran off. That may not be the answer that we want to hear, but it's one way. Or turning the sporran to the side a little bit temporarily would be another way. If you're really, really worried about it, then it may influence the design of the belt you wear or the buckle you wear with what sporran.
Or if you wear a belt at all.
Or if you wear a belt at all. If it's a very pointy, craggy, 3-dimensional design, you're more likely to have edges that are going to catch on the leather versus like something like the one I'm wearing today, which is smooth across the bottom. But it kind of feels disappointing to have to limit your choices that way. But yeah, there isn't really a good.
There isn't a good solution.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Stop.
I will say this: this sporran that I am wearing right now is 7 or 8 years old, probably at this point. I have beaten the absolute hell out of this thing. It has, the more scratches you put on it, the more character it has, the more it looks, well loved. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, because the more you wear it and the more, flaws it has, that's the more, battle scars and stories that the sporran has.
Prince Charles.
What about Prince Charles?
He's a perfect example of that hunting sporran he has.
Yeah, with the one torn tassel.
He's wearing the same hunting sporran for like 50 years, and it's only gotten cooler as a result. So
absolutely. So having something brand new, pristine is great. I love having a brand new thing, but there's also something, you go through a phase, through a transition from loving the brand new thing because it's new and it's shiny and it's perfect, and then you get that first scratch or the second scratch or little imperfections on it, and then you get angry because it's no longer perfect, but you love the thing, so you keep wearing it. And then the more it gets beat up, the more you love it because it's beat up, and it's now part of your story, and it's part of you. Like, if you look at videos from 5 years ago, I'm wearing this sporran for most of them because this is my favorite sporran, and I keep poking myself in the crotch, and this looks weird on camera, but I don't care at this point. But I'm wearing this sporran for most of those videos because I just love this sporran. So it's at some point, and this does not meant to sound harsh, at some point you just have to go, well, okay, it's scratched now. Now I have to love it for being imperfect.
Those new docks I got?
Yes.
I just had the first scratch on the toe.
Yes, and how do you feel about that?
I'm pissed as hell.
Yes,
I am
exactly.
so freaking pissed. And it's like I knew it was going to happen eventually, just kind of like looking down, it's like,
Yep. And when you start getting the in your Doc Martens or in your combat boots, when you start getting like the wrinkle lines across the toes.
Yeah, I don't mind those as much,
feet
but
bend.
The scratches bother me more than the wrinkle lines. But is there a way to disguise if you have a gouge in a sporran, just for whatever reason, like you run into a knife?
I would say one of two things. Run into
just randomly.
Someone tried to stab you in the crotch. Thank God you had a thick lever artisanal sporran. Insert product plug here.
My lucky sporran.
Yeah. Like you could probably, I would feel weird saying polish the leather or re-dye it or something like that, because A, it's going to take the dye differently. B, it's going to be rubbing against the kilt potentially, and you don't want that to transfer onto the kilt.
Right.
That would be my biggest concern.
Right.
But maybe. I don't even want to say this, but I'll say it anyway. Maybe needs foot oil or something like that, where you can kind of, make it a little more supple, a little more prone to scratching. But the more scratches it ends up getting, the more character it has. Within reason. Okay. You don't want to wear something that's like threadbare and it looks like you're 800 years old and you just haven't taken care of it.
It's kind of the reason why you have
a certain amount of
for
character.
special occasions. And day sporrans. I would say, I think some kind of an oil to. Because the things about a scratch that suck is the color contrast, because that's how you notice it, and the fuzzy bits sticking up. So if you can have a way to smooth that out a little bit, like with a little gentle rubbing with an oil, so that it absorbs into the hide underneath the finish of the leather, so it darkens in color.
Yes, but his is a brown
remember.
and okay. He had the artisanal day sporran. Show it here in case we haven't shown it yet. His is the artisanal day sporran. It's brown and black mixed.
Yeah.
So the brown, being beating up a black sporran and subtle marks are going to be easier to notice less on a black sporran than on brown, because it's not like a super dark brown. It's a tannish kind of brown.
Got it.
So it's a little more. I empathize a little bit more with you in that way. But it's part of the life of the sporran. It's part of the life of anything that you wear, especially leather goods that you wear. The belt that I've worn, for 10 years has kind of a little bit of a U shape to it, because that's how I'm built, and that's just what happens. I've sweated in the belt, I've gotten it hot, and it's kind of now a little bit of a U. It is what it is.
Right.
I still love it.
Do you? Okay.
Missed that belt.
All right. So sympathies.
Yes, indeed. But don't worry about it. Frankly speaking, you're probably more concerned about it than anyone else. That's generally how things go. Eric notices his scratch in his Doc Martens. I didn't care. I didn't think less of him for having a single scratch in his brand new boots. I won't think less of you, I promise. Okay. Mr. Eric.
Is that my turn?
Yep.
Okay. All right. H. Moore, who, by the way, was one of the people who very kindly answered the question of the month last month. He had commented at the time, I'm 5'4". As a vertically challenged person, would a great kilt be too long for me? I love the look of it, but I would hate for it to be dragging on the ground. So
great kilt.
5'4".
Okay.
5'4", wearing a great kilt is
wearing a great kilt.
Yeah.
The cloth, a great kilt is basically just double width cloth that you hand pleat and wrap around you, whippity doo dah, connect it up here. The different mills have different widths of cloth. So I would start by saying, if you're 5'4", I would probably choose Loch Heron double width cloth, because it's going to be about 54 inches wide versus something like Martin Mills, which is about 60 inches wide. So if you're a taller guy on the other end of the spectrum, I would lean towards, Martin Mills. Strathmore is about 58 or 60. So I would lean towards one of those to get a little bit more height out of it. Yes. Now, start with a mill with a slightly lesser width fabric. Get that. If it is still too long, or it's hanging down below the knee, then you have essentially three choices. One, suck it up and deal with it. Just fold the extra fabric a different way. Make sure it's hitting you mid-knee, and then fold the extra fabric up top a slightly different way.
Unless he's wearing it modernly.
And just letting it lay down or whatever.
Doing the tail thing.
Option 2 would be have the cloth hemmed. It's never a great idea, especially on a great kilt. Well, I guess you could still iron it in, but it's never the best option to have something hemmed, but you can have it hemmed. The third option, and again, none of these are necessarily great, would be to actually serge or use an overlock machine, cut the fabric to, let's say, 2 inches less or whatever the appropriate length is, and then actually have that cloth cut and serged. Serging or overlocking, for those who don't know, if you look at like the inside edge of your t-shirt where you have like a bunch of threads that wrap around the edge of the cloth, that is overlocking or serging, which is cutting off the fabric and then doing that thread that goes around the edge to just make sure it doesn't fray. Maybe doing that could do it, although you're going to have a line of stitching at the bottom of the cloth then. So again, no great options. Great kilt options. No great options. Sorry, I had to. I'm so sorry. But it's something that'll get a little bit more your length that you're desiring. Do you have any other?
No, I think it's basically just you need a smaller great kilt, basically. Yeah. So yeah, you make it narrower by doing the trimming like he was discussing. You could test what lengths are going to work best for you with some scrap fabric or something before you decide how to modify your expensive tartan that you just bought from a reputable tartan dealer. But say get some, I don't know, if your wife is into quilting or something, get some quilting cotton and figure out if you need it 50 inches wide or 48 inches wide or what's going to work. Figure out the length and experiment with something that you don't care about until you feel like in the mirror you've got something you can wrap and drape and you get the nice cool tail on the back if you're doing the modern look, or you got enough material to work with to do the over the shoulder thing or the over the head thing if you're doing a reenacting thing, and then purchase your tartan, because having to cut into expensive cloth to modify it can be scary. So just measure twice with something else and cut it several times, and then measure and cut once with the actual tartan.
Agreed. Mr. Mack.
All right. TikToks again.
Whoop whoop.
So we have Sahara Rose 30. Did septs have their own tartans in the same way clans did?
Sometimes.
Not always.
They usually become clans of their own at that point.
Yeah. The a sept is a clan that is associated with a larger clan. So either through marriage, through living on land, those kind of things, they would wear the tartan of the larger clan of the land that they live on, that kind of thing. Would you have anything you would like to add, Mr. Eyebrow cocked at me guy?
No, he's right. Basically, family names and families could become septs for any number of different reasons. Usually it would mean that you are swearing loyalty to a clan and therefore you're adopting the regalia of that clan. So you'd be wearing their tartan or using their clan badge, etc. When a sept became large enough or things were disorganized enough and communication was difficult enough between a sept and the leaders of the clan proper, they might break off and become a clan of their own. That's happened a few times. And that's kind of, and then you have different renditions of clans happening just by geography itself, Stewart of Appin versus Stewart of Ardshall and stuff like that. They're still Stewarts, but they consider themselves their own thing. I think the whole idea of a sept becoming a clan and having its own tartan is more of a modern phenomenon. I don't think it happened that often back in the day, and realized that the existence of septs was there, but it wasn't a huge dramatic segment of the kilt wearing population. Stop me if you heard this one. Until the Victorians came along, and then basically everybody wanted to be a Highlander, and anybody who was in a clan wanted to be able to lay claim to as many family surnames as possible, because it just made you look bigger and gave you clout and all that kind of stuff. So there was a huge push in the mid 19th century where clans were just scooping up names left, right, and center to say, okay, that's a sept of ours, and that's a sept of ours, and that's a sept of ours. And it's funny because sometimes you'll get into a situation where your family name is a sept of 2 or 3 or 4 different clans. It's okay, which one is it? You have to go into geography.
It was a massive game of Hungry Hippos.
A little bit.
And they just had marbles with clan names on them. Yep.
Yeah. So it does occasionally happen. Not too often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac, did you have something to add? Or are you?
No, I was just picturing more of trading cards, like
Right.
I'll swap you
Gotta catch 'em all.
2 reeds for one. Yeah.
yeah.
For 1 Miller.
Yes.
Well, how many Smiths you got? You know.
And then I took
Go fish.
Yeah.
Then in my head, the Leader of the Pack song came on, and it was turned into Leader of the Clan when you said
The
that.
leader of the clan. You have the
Ah,
bagpipes.
no. I still like the Hungry.
We should do a whole album of Filk songs. I mean, he just came up with one. We had one at the beginning of the show too. I forget what was the
We're horrible. We're dad jokes aplenty.
dad jokes and puns and Filk songs.
Yes. Oh my.
Kind of love the idea though. We could do that for the anniversary show, which is coming up on August 19th, by the way.
Next, Mr. Eric.
One more.
We'll do one
Do we
more
have
from
one
you,
more
sir.
for me. Okay. All joking aside, there was we actually have a video that we're working on right now, which talks about not for the show, but for our company, on how to choose your tartans. People are getting into this, and one of the things we talk about is what do you do if you're a sept, or what do you do if you find your name listed for more than one clan. So it's a good question. All right. Okay. Scott Kreckman has a problem. Put on your Car Talk guys hat for this one. I'm trying to get my wife more into the tartan life. She's still getting used to me wearing my Scott modern kilt pretty regularly. Recently, I bought her a Scott weathered shawl for Mother's Day. But what suggestions do you have to help her get into it more? So, you prepared to be a marriage counselor tonight?
Me? Never.
Yeah.
How do you get your wife to accept you wearing the kilt and get her into it?
Sounds like she's okay with him doing his thing, but it's kind of like, go do your thing.
Yeah, I would say this. I wouldn't force it too much. It is a all right. Now I'm getting marriage counseling. Okay, my brain got it.
It clicked.
Engage. It is very healthy for couples to do things together and to have common interests. It is also very healthy for them to have their own interests. Like, just because you're part of a union doesn't mean you need to do all the same things all the time. I go out twice a week and play deck hockey with a bunch of guys, sweat my butt off, run around Mr. Fat Man, throwing people into the boards. My wife has zero interest in watching me play. None. I come home, I stink, and she's like, oh, God, get upstairs. It doesn't matter because it's something I enjoy doing for myself. Do I wish she would say, like, I'd like to see you come play? Sure. It would be neat. I'd love to have my son involved and, like, cheer me on. Go, Daddy, go. But it doesn't hurt my feelings that she doesn't want to, because that's my thing. It's not her thing. Right. She likes to knit. I tried knitting one time and my brain just exploded with boredom. I don't want to do it. I don't care. It takes me way too long to make a little thing. That's why I like sewing, because I can do something faster. Knitting is just boring to me. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fine. So I would do the things that or allow her to kind of come to it at her own pace. She's accepting of you doing it. She doesn't object to you doing it. So that's the actual win. Now convincing her to come into it is a little tricky. You got her a sash, great. Maybe see if she likes some jewelry, either it's Irish or Scottish or whatever. See what you can twist on her existing interests to kind of draw her in a little bit. See if she likes the music, if you want to take her to a concert. See if she'll go to a festival with you. But don't get upset or don't freak out if she doesn't care as much as you care, because it's not her thing, it's yours. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yep. Good night, everybody. No, I seriously, I'm not sure what else to say. Basically, if she does not have a Gallic background in her family, she doesn't have an emotional draw to it the way you do, then you can't force that on somebody. But if you can find occasions where it's fun, I think everything is context driven, as we often say. So yeah, I think the idea of let's do this because it would be fun to do together for this special occasion. Don't tries like, oh, you're going out to the grocery store? Why aren't you wearing your tartan shawl? You're representing the family when you go to Giant.
Why don't you have Irish music playing in the car on the way to the grocery store?
Yeah, no, so, and yeah, my wife and I have some very different interests, and we have a few interests in common. It'd be boring if we were clones,
Yeah.
So anyway, I would say make it a special occasion thing, make it a treat, and make sure that she feels absolutely empowered to put her own spin on this. If she does have some kind of Gallic background, that see if she's interested in doing that. Maybe she wants to see if she's got her own tartan or something like that, or maybe there's a story that intrigues her that has nothing to do with her family heritage, but something about the culture that she says, you know what, that's cool, or oh, you know what, that woman of history fascinates me. I want to learn more about her. It could be something like that is a hook for her, but it has to be on her terms and it has to be fun. It's just, so find a way for it to be fun and absolutely totally temporary, so she doesn't feel like you're locking her into some kind of a uniform.
And I would say there may be an element of bargaining to some degree that you could utilize as well. So if she likes the opera, okay, hey, maybe point out to her, hey, the opera, Les Mis is in town next month.
Opera.
Can I? Whatever. I don't know. I don't like opera. I don't know. The Johnny Cash opera is in town next month. No, but if there's something that she is interested in, maybe suggest like, hey, could I come to that with you? And start by don't start by asking, start by giving, and say like, hey, I want to do a couple little things that you're interested in. Now, you can't poo-poo it, you can't fall asleep during it, you can't get drunk during it, but show her that you are interested in her stuff, and maybe she'll show a little bit of interest in your stuff. It's all about finding a balance and enjoying each other's things and each other's company, and doing something for her because it's for her, not because it's for you. And she'll then, hopefully reciprocate and do things for you just because it's for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Indeed. Good.
My brain's going a completely different direction. Anyway.
Indeed. All right, boys and girls, question of the day. Do we have any more announcements or anything for the question of the day? In case you didn't hear, we have a 5-year anniversary show coming up August 19th. Be sure to tune in for that. Yes.
Eastern Standard.
But question of the day. What is your favorite Scottish food?
Okay.
We want to know. What's your favorite food? Why is it your favorite food?
Oh, and would you serve it to guests? Huh?
Sure.
How about that?
Sure. Have you served it to guests?
Right.
Did you tell them that you were serving it to them? You're just like, hey, eat this thing. Let us know in the comments. Thank you, boys and girls, for tuning in. Until next time. Slán.
Slán.